everybody, Kate Payne here from Standing Out Online, and welcome to my Coffee with Kate live webcast/podcast. And I'm so excited you could all be here today. We are running a couple minutes late. We were just ironing out some technical things on the other end, but here we are. So, and also if you're joining us on the replay, thank you for watching. And you can still leave questions in the chat if you're watching on the replay. So let me introduce to you my good friend and guest, Dr. Candace Holmes. Hello, Dr. Candace. So let's do our little virtual toast because it's like my little stick. Yes. It's so nice to have you with us today. Thank you.
There you go.
So I know Dr. Candace through eWomen Network. Many of you know that eWomen Network has been a big part of my life. It's a women's entrepreneurial networking and membership group. And I'm in the Colorado Springs chapter. Dr. Candace is in Atlanta. And so we got to know each other through eWomen. And then she and I were both in a coaching program with Julie Miller Davis. And Candace came to Colorado for a retreat. Was it like a year and a half ago? Something like that? Yeah. Time flies, right? So
yes, I think it's almost 2 years ago. Yeah,
I know it was a while.
It does.
We're going to talk today with Dr. Candace. She is she's a doctor of chiropractic, and she also does work with the brain. And I know some of it, and some of it I'm going to be learning along with all of you today too. So I thought it would be really helpful and fun to bring Dr. Candace into my show to talk about brain power for your business, the healing focus and the entrepreneurial mind. So my Coffee with Kate show, Dr. Candace, is Coffee with Kate, brewing business brilliance for entrepreneurs. So I always want to be talking about business in some way. And certainly I think it's foundational to our health, not only our physical health and our well-being, but our brains too. So give us a little bit of background about how you went from chiropractic to brain, and then let's dig in.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I went from being a chiropractor to specializing in neurofeedback therapy because of my oldest daughter. She was diagnosed with ADHD when she was 7. And honestly, at the time, I was in denial. And I was trying to find something that would help her that didn't include any kind of medication, because we try to stay away from medications as often as possible. And I happened to be going through one of our magazines, and there was an article about neurofeedback. It said drug-free therapy, non-invasive. The results can last up to 30 years. And I'm like, what is that now? And so I called and found out more about it, did some research, and found out that the system that I use is founded by one of my former chiropractic professors who was trying to find a solution for his nephew who has Asperger's. So I decided to invest in the program and started working with my daughter. And she went from struggling with focus and attention to being the most focused in class after using neurofeedback, from having troubles with social cues and being socially awkward to having tons of friends, from taking 5 hours a night to do homework to 2.5 to 3. I mean, it's just transformational. And I owe it all to neurofeedback. Wow. And so after she had such great success, I'm like, how many other people don't even know about this? And so I said, let me add this to my practice and just, make people more aware of this phenomenal therapy.
That's great. So how old was your daughter when you first noticed that she had this challenge?
Well, when she was born, she was only 4 pounds, 10.8 ounces. And the doctors told me, she would be a little delayed. Now, mind you, she was 36. I was 36 weeks and 5 days. So 2 days short of full term. So she wasn't a preemie or anything. She's just petite is what I called her. And I noticed, she wasn't crawling, she wasn't hitting those milestones. And I'm like, she'll catch up. She'll be fine. And then in kindergarten, it was suggested that I hold her back because she didn't know her sight words. And I lamented about that forever. And my ex-husband, we were divorced at that time, was like, it's okay. Like, she'll be fine. She'll grow out of it. It'll be okay. And every year it was just something that she just wasn't getting. And so when my cousin suggested I have her tested, that's what the diagnosis came back as. And I'm like, okay. Like I said, I was in denial because nobody on my side of the family has any issues or has been diagnosed with ADHD. So once I remembered that my children share DNA with their dad, then I found out his side was probably most likely cause of origination, I should say, of the challenges.
So are you still doing do you still do your chiropractic work? Do you still have a practice for the chiropractic side of your business? Okay.
Absolutely. I do house calls for chiropractic. I love being able to go into my patients' locations to help them with that, as opposed to having this traffic. We're in Atlanta, so traffic is not your friend, most likely. So they love it because their logistics don't change. They go to their same routes every day, and I'm the one who changes. So they love that.
So that was the inspiration, what happened with your daughter, to then go into helping people with the brain side. And so describe what you do with that. And I know there's like a device that goes with this too. You and I have talked about that.
Sure.
So just give us some context about how it works for people, sure, the actual machine, and then we'll start getting into the why it's so important.
Yes, sure. So neurofeedback is a sophisticated form of biofeedback. As you know, bio means body. And so it is a way to retrain how your brain functions. There are certain ranges that your brain works within as far as frequencies. When your brain is in those particular frequencies, then everything goes well. When the brain starts going beyond or under those frequencies, and that's when you start having symptoms from challenges such as ADHD or autism or anxiety or depression or sleep issues or memory. So neurofeedback works to, again, make those frequencies get more fine-tuned, kind of like a radio that's fuzzy. It fine tunes it so that your station is clear and those frequencies are clear, and you no longer have those symptoms. They start disappearing. So after we have a brain, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so the first step is to have a brain mapping performed. Well, in my office, I do a neural health call, just because a lot of people have questions. This is something most people aren't familiar with, even though it's been around for over 60 years. So I do a complimentary neural health call. And then from there, I move into a consultation to, see if they are a candidate for the therapy, because everyone isn't. And if they are, then the next step is to have a brain mapping, which shows how your brain is functioning. It's an objective finding. They wear a cap that has sensors on it, and the brain waves are recorded. Half of it is done with your eyes open and eyes closed, because your brain acts differently depending upon if your eyes are open or closed. The best example I can give of that is, when someone is unfortunately put over for a DUI, they have them do this test where they touch their fingers to their nose with their eyes open, but they close their eyes, and sometimes they don't make that connection. So after that report comes out, then that's where the protocols come in, and we can get them started on the training. And it's a computer-based program. So that's where I will have a national practice. So I'll ship the equipment out to the patients, and then I meet with them virtually, and I'll show them how to set themselves up for the training.
So do they have to buy the equipment, or
and the training is just watching something on a streaming device? So whatever streaming.
Okay. Do they have to buy the equipment?
It's something that they rent from me because there's a database that I am using. No, they're renting it from me. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And once they finish their training sessions, then all the information comes to my computer, and I monitor them remotely. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the importance of brain health. We always talk, when we talk about health, I think people always just think like the body, and obviously the brain is in your body, but we don't necessarily focus on the brain sometimes. I don't think sometimes that we think of the most obvious kind of thing. Like when I think about depression or anxiety, I think, what's wrong with me? Like, what do I need to do? Do I need to sleep more? So taking that context, which I think is what a lot of people might be thinking right now, tell us how the work you do can help with some of these sort of everyday types of things. And also, just a reminder to those of you who are watching right now, thank you. And please know that you can put a comment in to ask a question of Dr. Candace while we're doing this. So feel free to put in the questions, and we'll answer your questions live.
Sure. So most people have, when they have challenges like, say, anxiety or depression, you're right. They're just thinking, I'm not sleeping enough, or I'm not eating well, or there's something going on in my life. not really thinking about they grew up in a family where maybe a mother or a father suffered from anxiety or depression. A lot of things come to us through our genetics. I've heard of people saying that, we experience traumas that our parents have experienced and our grandparents, even our great grandparents. So, there's some DNA evidence to support that. So the thing with anxiety and depression or any other condition is that your brain has the ability to make those changes. It's called neuroplasticity. It's just like I tell people, you learned how to ride your bike maybe at 5 or 6 years old, whatever age that was. You can ride the bike presently because your brain remembers how to ride the bike. But maybe say you fractured a wrist or you broke an ankle. Well, now your center of gravity is different because you're not the same size as you were at 5 or 6. But the core memories, the core knowing of how to ride, like the mechanics and everything, are still deep within your brain. You just have to bring them out. So neurofeedback works to essentially make sure that those lessons that you learned when you were younger are fine-tuned. And if you're having like those anxious thoughts and those depressive moods, that those can be changed just by simply watching a television show or a movie. Most people, like you said, don't think about the brain and how but it controls everything. So just like when I talk about being a chiropractor, people think, oh, I crack bones. I say, don't ever use cracking bones and crack it all in connection with my name. But the main component of the nervous system is the brain. The spinal column just happens to surround that nervous system. So if we can, everything starts in the brain. So if the brain is functioning well, then everything else flows from it. So let's make sure we start with the most important organ in your body, which is the brain.
It's so fascinating to hear all this. And I'm looking at you as my friend going, God, you're smart. So let's tie all of what you just said. I'm still having a little bit of a delay on my end. I don't know if that's happening for you. Let's talk about how we want to tie in our brain health, especially for those of us who are business owners. We own our own business. We're entrepreneurs. We are maybe executives in a career. And maybe we have some things that are going on in our life, but we haven't thought about this kind of a modality. Tie that into how this affects people in their work life.
Yes, sure. Absolutely. So just being an entrepreneur, we think differently. Let's just say that first and foremost. Well, all the tasks that you do, there's an executive functioning component to your brain. So let's say maybe you're having challenges with organization, or you're having trouble with completing a task at a certain time. That's all brain related. And women, especially, we have perimenopausal or menopause, or those changes in our hormones. That all affects that, and that all, guess what, is in the brain as well. So taking all those components together, just making sure that we can keep everything functioning as well as it can. And of course, there are some dietary considerations, making sure you're drinking a great amount of water, getting your vitamin D and those minerals as well. It's just that the brain, when you have like brain fog, that's a symptom that something's going on in your brain. I mean, it's called brain fog, right? So you may have a little fuzziness. You may not, your memory may lapse a little bit. Some of us have been in, car accidents. Some of us have had, childhood traumas. All of those contribute to how your brain functions. So when you start noticing, oh, wait a minute, numbers aren't coming to me, or names aren't coming to me anymore. That is not just a regular function of, I don't say aging, I say seasoning. That isn't a regular function of seasoning. There's something going on in your brain. And the more proactive you are, the better for your brain. I have a friend who noticed, she and her sister noticed that their mom was having some issues with memory. And I said, now's the time to do something about that. Not, 10, 20 years later. I've had some patients that, well, when did that start? Oh, about 5 years ago. So you noticed it 5 years ago, but you just thought, and I think we're trained to think that, these things just happen as we age, and it's not true. It doesn't have to be true. So entrepreneurs, again, we're a different breed of people. And we just plug on. We're just going to keep on going. We're just going to, force ourselves to go through it, not taking the time to think, oh, wait a minute. maybe there's another way to handle it. And as entrepreneurs, we typically find another way. But if you don't know like this even exists, then you wouldn't even know that this is another way. Like I use neurofeedback for stress relief. That's another part of it. It's not just for people who have conditions. I haven't been diagnosed with anything. I just want to make sure that my brain stays sharp. My goal is to be a centenarian who's still, driving and coming around the corner on two wheels. That's my joy. That's what I'm looking forward to. So let's make sure it's great so that I can continue to drive and they won't take my keys away from me.
Right. Exactly. So, Dr. Candace, we're hearing some background noise. I'm not sure if there's anything you can do about that. I'm hearing some background noise.
Hey, one second. Let me see.
Okay. So much fun. The joys of working remotely.
Yes, a family member came home and didn't realize I was on a thing. So I'm like,
no, that's okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's the joys of working from home, right? So talk about, Dr. Candace, I mean, you are an entrepreneur. Yep. You are an entrepreneur. And, you have you've got your chiropractic business, you've got the Brain Core Duluth business. Talk about how you utilize this for yourself and as an entrepreneur, because, we all have the same things. We have kids, we have parents, we have things that we're responsible for. We have a crazy schedule and we're always trying to do the best we can for the things that we're doing. So how do you handle some of those everyday stresses with what you do for others? How do you use it on yourself?
So one of the things, there are different protocols for neurofeedback. And I remember going to a symposium a few years ago, and the speaker said, if you're not using neurofeedback on yourself for stress relief, then what are you doing? What are you really doing? And I'm because you're right. You take care of everyone else. You don't think about yourself. So typically I have at least one neurofeedback session a week. If I'm having a particularly stressed day, and guess what? If I have a little break, I'll hook myself up and do neurofeedback. It's the best 30 minutes a day that you'll spend.
So you literally like put a cap
because
on?
It's like the best way. So when you're at home, you don't use the cap, you just use sensors. So like leads is what most people may know them to be.
Okay.
And you paste them on different parts of the brain, comprehension and focus. Then we go here at that area, and then that's connected to a amplifier, and then that's connected to the computer, and then you're on the streaming device. And when you're connected and your brain is in the frequency that we want it to be in, the one that we're trying to train, then you'll see everything like you normally would. It's bright and you hear it well. But when the brain starts going into that dysfunctional pattern, which is why you're having those symptoms that, like, say, heavy stress or anxiety, depression, then the screen will fade and then the volume goes down. And that's a signal to the brain, hey, get back to functioning, except the negative reinforcement doesn't hurt. It just, the screen just fades and the volume goes down.
Okay.
And the only thing your brain wants to do is to watch what you're watching regularly. So that's the third part. It works to do that, but it's not like you have to sit there and concentrate and everything. So it's pretty easy. And that's what I'm thankful for, because if it weren't easy, my daughter wouldn't have done it and she wouldn't have had the successes that she has now.
Okay, we've got a couple questions here. So do you recommend, this is from Jim, do you recommend any supplements for us to take for brain health as we age? Yes.
I mean, I would love it if we could get all the nutrients that we needed just out of the foods that we eat. But as we know, the grounds aren't, the soil isn't as fertile and nutrient rich as it was before. So the ones that we recommend are mainly 3. And you can get that from, the fishes and things like the salmon, the mackerels, the herrings. There's DHEA that you can take. There's also potassium, magnesium. One of the wonderful things I love about the system that I'm using is based upon your brain mapping, it gives some recommendations for some minerals and supplements that may be missing from your diet based upon how your brain mapping is presenting. So it's traditionally like everything's looking great. And even just a regular multivitamin. Again, a lot of us don't eat as well as we should. We have our vices.
You
So
don't?
those are just some of the supplements and minerals that are necessary. Vitamin D, of course, is essential for right. Vitamin D is essential for mental health. And I live, like I said, in Atlanta, and we have plentiful sunshine, and you still have people here who are vitamin D deficient because they don't go outside or they don't like to be outside. So vitamin D is a big one as well.
Okay, good to know. We got another question here from Christy. Dr. Holmes, can people who have pacemakers safely use the cap or the leads, I guess is a better way to say that.
Yeah. The sensor, sure. Those who have pacemakers, it's not a contraindication. I did have a patient she was a prospect who has Parkinson's, and the work that we do might have changed the settings that were on that, because that was right in her brain. Pacemakers are here. Mm-hmm. So that's not a direct contraindication, no.
Okay, good to know. Good questions. Appreciate the questions. So how many, like when you're working with somebody, are you working, it's not a one-off, right? Like, is this something that you do over a period of time? Or does it just depend on the person and it depends on their challenge?
Sure. So one thing I love about the brain mapping is that it shows the severity of the condition, for lack of a better word. So if it's a typical presentation, it's a straightforward case, then most people start experiencing changes in their brain, those transformations, after about 30 completed training sessions. On my program, you can get that done in 2 weeks. In some cases, people go just into the office, it can take 2 or 3 times a week, so it can take even longer. That's why I designed my program, because who doesn't want to get better faster?
Right.
However, though, there are certain conditions that it can take a little longer, like autism, learning differences, like dyslexia, and Parkinson's, and those over the age of 65. So it can take their brain 2 to 3 to 4 times as long to make those same transformative changes. So that's why every body is different. Every brain is different.
Right. So let's talk about, like, as I said, we've been focusing on business owners, entrepreneurs. Let's talk about the difference between maybe the person who's just your everyday person who's working in a job, has kids or parents they're taking care of or whatever. What do you see as a difference between sort of like the everyday person and somebody who is a heavy hitting entrepreneur who's kind of, just got a different dynamic going on in their life?
Yeah. One big change that I've noticed recently is, honestly, from the pandemic. A lot of things have changed in the way brain that happened during that time too, but it was a stressful time. And a lot of people are still having residual effects from that. Sleeping patterns have changed. The work are demanding more, but they're not paying for that extra demand. I have people come to me who are afraid of losing their jobs because their memory isn't as sharp, or they're forgetting to complete a task, or they don't complete the task within a certain amount of time. And they're like, Doc, you got to help me. Like, I need my job, and then I do notice my dad, he had dementia, he had Alzheimer's. I want to make sure that I don't get that. So what can we do? So that's some of the ways that those who are in the workforce can use neurofeedback. And then also too, let's say you're an executive and you don't want to retire. I know a lot of people say, I don't want to retire. And I'm like, I'm with you. I don't want to retire either. I want to always do something to stay active, keep my brain active. Those same people want to be able to continue to be sharp as they, get into their, elder years. So I have, quite a few of those people coming to me as well, who just want to continue working and want to be, at the top of their game.
So you mentioned something about the brain mapping, and you mentioned dementia. Does this work help sort of foretell, if that's the right word, or have foresight into somebody's, maybe, what's the word? The possibility that they could end up with something like dementia or Alzheimer's. Is there a way that you can sort of catch it?
So with Alzheimer's and a lot of conditions, like I had a patient, it's a 50% chance that you'll get it, like a 50-50 if it's in your family. I had a woman who was 29 and her mom was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia at 50. And she said,
Wow.
Dr. Holmes, I just want to make sure that my sons don't have to take care of me like my brother and I have to take care of my mom. And so she was proactive, and she was noticing even at 29 that she was having issues with remembering to complete tasks at work and transposing numbers and words and things. So there's typically a hereditary component with dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's not I tell people it's not a cure-all. I spoke at a symposium earlier this year. It's not a cure-all. It's just a great team member to add to your team to try to delay the effects of it or slow it down. And one thing I tell people too is once brain tissue has died, there's nothing that can be done about that. It's not like this, you're going to regenerate. Neurofeedback can form different patterns, like kind of a detour from a part of the brain that has been damaged. So that's where the neuroplasticity comes in. It's just not, it's not a cure. I just tell everybody it's not a cure, but it's definitely a great tool to have in your tool belt of healthy ways to help your brain.
Exactly. So as we're winding down here today, I want to talk about you've got some things that you do, books, things like that. Let's take a moment to talk about first of all, your book. Tell us about your book.
Okay. Thank you. The name of my book is called Transform Your Brain with Neurofeedback. I wrote it because, again, most people haven't heard of this. When I talk about it, they go, what? And so to get rid of the what, I wrote the book. It came out last year, and I just share how I started with neurofeedback, and I also have a few, I call them case stories instead of case studies in there, that just detail, all the conditions that have been helped with neurofeedback. And my goal is just to make the public aware that you have drug-free options when it comes to brain health. You don't always have to rely on medications.
I love case stories.
And neurofeedback is for people as young as 5 and up. So that's one I want to say.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you.
I love case stories instead of
love
case
stories,
studies.
and
Yep.
Always. Sure.
Yes. All right. And I also think that
Absolutely.
you have
absolutely. And I wrote it so that a typical person can read it. You don't have to be
a typical person. So you also have a freebie for us today, right? For our listeners.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat, please?
Yep. Tell us about the freebie that you have for us today. I think it's the first chapter of your book.
For the audience, I have included the first chapter of my book that you can download just to get a taste of what the book is about. And I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. Hey, we've got another question. So Laura Grimley, thank you, Laura. It's nice to see you here. I've got to sort of quote unquote see you 2 days in a row. So nice to see you, Laura. So Laura asks, do you work directly with individuals or just healthcare providers? If providers, do you have recommendations in Massachusetts?
Sure. So I work with individuals and I co-manage with healthcare providers. So both. I was like, so both. And I do have a network that extends. So the best thing I can say for you, Laura, is to book a neural health call with me, and we can discuss, where you're located in zip codes and all the good things, and go from there.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Dr. Candace. Thank you for sharing that. So where are places that people can find you? Oh, did we lose her?
Goodness, you can find me on LinkedIn, of course, at Dr. Candace Holmes. And you can also find me on Facebook.
Okay. Is it on Facebook? Is it you personally or is it your business? On Facebook, is it you personally, Dr. Candace, or is it like a brain? Is it a business name?
Oh, it'll be Brain.
Brain Core of Duluth?
It will
Okay.
be Brain Core of Duluth.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This was,
Yes.
there were some really good questions. People really need to know about this. And I appreciate that you're helping. Thank you for taking the time to be on my show, but to create awareness for people about this, because it certainly has shed a light on things for me. So thank you for having virtual coffee with me today, Dr. Candace. And please stay on after we end the show. And for those of you watching the replay, feel free to include your questions in the replay. You can just tag me or Dr. Candace. You'll see it on LinkedIn and on my Facebook personal page. So thank you again for being here. Please hang on, and so that we can just chit chat afterwards. And thank you all for listening and joining us today.